Good morning, Facebook Live. It's Hamilton here with Dean Jeff Tanner. Thank you so much for doing this and coming on and interviewing with Hamilton Perkins Collection. Just want to get your thoughts today about business and, a business school in the environment of business. And, even before we get there, maybe if you want to introduce yourself, your background, and how you
Sure.
sort of got to this point. I mean, the audience would love to just learn more about you and what you do.
Great, good. Well, I've been at Old Dominion Strunk College of Business now for about 16 months and came from Baylor University, where I was a professor of marketing and also an associate dean for a long time. I went to Baylor originally because my background is sales in a B2B environment, and we launched the first center for sales there and then the first major in professional sales there. So, and I've had a fairly extensive consulting career, working with companies like EMC, IBM, SAP, but also small companies like Lockhart, which is about a $6 million company, and startups ranging from information technology services to marketing services and so forth. So been on a number of boards of furniture manufacturing company board and some others. So I've been pretty active in both the business side as well as academia. The professors would like to know that I've published some articles. So I've published about 75 scholarly research articles, 15 books, some of which are trade for professionals and some are academic. So really been spending my whole career straddling between real business and academia. And really it all started for me with a couple of years stint with Rockwell International and then 6 years with Xerox. So always been very active in business.
Do you have an affinity towards maybe smaller businesses or larger businesses when you're doing your consulting, or how do you sort of balance the two?
That's an interesting question. I've done a lot of work with nonprofits as well, which are very entrepreneurial, and so I have a strong affinity, I think, for working with the smaller companies, but I'm not afraid to get in there and mix it up with the big companies. The reality is that a lot of there are some problems that are specific to one or the other. When you hit those inflection points in scaling up, those are challenges that small organizations, nonprofit organizations face that typically the well-established companies don't. But beyond that, I mean, we're all still trying to figure out digital marketing and analytics and how that's going to help, and how do we make the most out of our IT resources, etc. So those are all things that I've worked in. The strategy to go to market strategies, those are pretty common sets of problems. So it's really where I see the differences between big and small is really more in terms of the role of the leader and the entrepreneur and how that changes over the different inflection points and the challenges in building out capacity. Quite frankly, as somebody who's built a consulting company, built a training company, I've also had some experience in that, and understanding and recognizing when those inflection points come. How do you make those investment decisions, and what do you do? So I understand the challenge from both firsthand and from consulting.
And I know you've got a really deep sales background.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first client, how you were able to acquire that client? Like, what was your go-to market strategy for your practice?
So my first client of my life, I was about 10 years old selling Christmas cards door to door. My goal was to win a gas-powered P-51 Mustang. And I don't remember my first sale, but there was one sale in particular I do remember, and that was to a woman named Mildred Provart. And I remained friends with her until she passed away. And in fact, she was my daughter's godmother. So, and I didn't know her until I knocked on her door and asked her to buy Christmas cards. I mean, this was not a family friend. This was somebody that, I'm out cold calling,
Yes.
knocking on doors, and I'm 10 or 11 years old, maybe 12. Got a briefcase full of Christmas card catalogs, and she invited me in and got to know her, and we just stayed in contact. And I learned something about that whole experience taught me about things like, the importance of customer service, because the Christmas cards weren't always delivered on time.
Mm-hmm.
And maintaining relationships and how important those relationships are, and that even though it may be about business, it's also, human. So that was really important. My first sale for Xerox, when I worked for Rockwell, I was in marketing research, but when I went to work for Xerox, I was a salesperson. And I remember the first 3 sales calls I went on, I was with an experienced salesperson. And we actually closed sales on those first 3.
Wow.
And she had to say, it's not like this all the time. So yeah, I do remember the first ones.
Good stuff. And I mean, even transitioning up to today, and I mean the changes, where people are spending more time.
Right.
They're spending more time online. They're spending more time on their phones. There's a lot of different forces. What is your thought about business, schools, and their role in sort of the entrepreneurial ecosystem? Because I bet you've got
Sure.
kids coming in here with business plans already for companies, if they've already had companies, and probably are looking at you for help on how to scale that company while here.
Right.
What would you say to someone that's maybe even still in high school that has that that drive like you had to kind of start something of their own? How do you think about that?
We do have students coming here with ongoing businesses. I mean, they're already generating revenue. Some come with just an idea. Some come more with a goal of being an entrepreneur or owning their own company, but they may not have any particular business idea that they feel is credible at this point. And the traditional business college is not the place they need to be. And by that, I mean the one that has faculty that never talk to a business person.
Yes.
If I'm trying to teach marketing, and I haven't been out actually having to do something with marketing in the last 5 years, I don't really get it. We've got to have faculty that are elbow deep working on solving problems in real businesses with students with them. And when we do that, then we can provide a very different experience for our student entrepreneurs, but also those students who want to seek a more traditional path in business. So, if I was talking to a room full of high school students, I think one of the things I'd say is take a look at what the faculty do before you select a place. Make sure that they're engaged in the business community. And it doesn't mean that all of them have to be, but when you find ones that are, you go stick with them. Go hang out with them. Volunteer to work with them, because they're entrepreneurial themselves, and they can give you a much deeper look at what it's really like and teach you really how to adapt going forward. Not the history of business, but actually how business is being done.
The practical side of it.
Right.
Totally
Right.
makes sense. What are you spending your time personally facing, I guess, from, I know you've you've got to be kind of the revenue guy yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you spending most of your time on? And is a normal day for you? Do you have a normal day? Like, what does your day look like?
So a normal day. So yes, I'm still in sales. I'm out knocking on doors, representing the college, trying to. I'm asking companies to invest in us, to collaborate with us, to hire our students, provide internships, etc. Average day for me starts about 5:30 in the morning, and I try to spend the first hour and a half writing, maintaining my own thought leadership, scholarship, etc. I'll tell you, it's a lot harder than it used to be, but because of the demands of the position. But that's what I try to do till about 7. Then I get ready for the day, come into the office, and the days go one of two ways. It's either a series of meetings with business people, policymakers, people who are influential in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, working on how we can collaborate more effectively with them and solve problems together. Or it's spent primarily internally working on taking what I've learned in my meetings, in my sales calls, if you will, bringing that back in and looking at the products and services that we're delivering and saying, are we really meeting the needs of our constituents? It's funny. I don't like thinking of students as customers, nor do I like thinking of businesses as customers. To me, the faculty-student relationship is an important, sacred one, and I don't think we improve it by calling them customers, nor do we improve it by calling them product. But in some respects, they are, and we have to make sure that what we deliver prepares them to be effective, shortens their time to value. And there's so many small things we can do. So for example, you take a kid majoring in marketing, they come out with a traditional marketing degree going for a traditional marketing job, they're going to start at $32,000 a year.
Sure.
If they get a degree in professional sales, then it's going to be $53,000 plus incentives. If they get a degree with an emphasis in analytics and digital marketing, they'll be in the 50s. And it's just those little changes that have a huge impact. It improves their time to value for the organization that hires them. They come out making more. That helps with, if they have student debt, it helps them manage the student debt. It's really important that we understand what those nuances are in the business community, what they need, and deliver that to our students so that they can really accelerate their success.
Is there anything that's happening in the entrepreneurial ecosystem that you see as far as collaboration or just initiatives in the next few months that you are focused on? Anything coming up?
Man, I tell you, that's we're limited in time. I will say,
I can't believe there's only 2 months left this year.
Yeah. Well, I just meant in this interview for me to give you all the things we're doing. But, my objective is to promise a student entering our MBA program, let's say it's a sailor transitioning into civilian life, or even an undergraduate, bring us your business idea. We'll help you develop an effective business plan, a viable business plan, help you find access to capital, and have a cadre of mentors and coaches who can help you launch that business. We're not there yet, but everything we're doing is driving towards that. Just before you walked in, I was interviewing a candidate for a faculty position in entrepreneurship. Every single one we've interviewed for that position has consulting experience. They've started businesses, they know how to do it, and they're key to helping that vision become reality. We just hired Karen Eagle, who has a PhD dissertation on entrepreneurship, but more importantly, started and built a chain of bridal boutiques.
Yeah.
And
right?
yeah, exactly. and she's going to take a leadership role in helping that vision become a reality. In fact, my next meeting is with her to talk about how that's going to happen. So we have that vision, and everything we're doing right now is focused on making that a reality.
Would you say, I guess landscape-wise, I mean, how can the college compete with a lot of the Udemy or I don't know if Skillshare is a good example, but maybe some of the online like places where you can get really like maybe an analytics course on just that one thing, you know, kind of a la carte.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about like positioning the programs that the MBA program offers and
Right.
stuff like that, so that you know it's a comprehensive value and that you know you have this one piece but it fits in a bigger puzzle? Like, how do you think about that?
Well, the way I think about it is this. You used to be able to read for the bar. You used to be able to read for priestly orders. So if you wanted to be a priest, you could go to seminary, or you could read for it and just pass the exam. If you wanted to be an attorney, you could read for it and go take the bar. You didn't have to go to school. Books have existed for a long time and had a lot of knowledge in them. So, you know, to be honest, we've always had this competition,
Yep.
you know, from
Just
self-directed learning.
Just takes a different form.
Right. But I think really, where is the added value in having a real professor there in front of you, working with you and side by side? And there's just so many, I go back to that relationship with Mildred Provart. I mean, if it's not, there is a value in having that personal relationship. And again, that's why that faculty-student nomenclature is important to me. It's not just words. There's a promise that you make to your students. I tell my students, you're my students forever. I may not have you in my class now. You know, you may have had it 10 years ago or 20 years ago, whenever. But you know, when you pick up the phone and call me, I'm going to know who you are, I'm going to remember you, and be able to answer your question or help you or whatever. And it's a two-way street. I expect to learn from you. I expect you to participate in class in the future. So that's Chip Gaines is coming November 28th. You know, from HGTV. Chip is coming because he's one of my former students, and I invited him to come and share, and give back to the teaching process. And that's not a customer.
Yep.
that's a faculty-student relationship.
What about from kind of brick and mortar competition, unique value proposition for ODU? What are some of the things? Has that changed at all, even since you got involved? Like, how's that been going?
Yeah, it has changed. It's changed in some fairly significant ways. We've always been proud of our diversity, but it's only recently, like within the last month or so, that we've been designated a minority-serving institution. And what that means is that there are companies that want to recruit here because of that designation,
Yep.
that may not have had us on their list last year. But let's talk about what that value proposition is. Yes, we're on the list. Yes, they can come and recruit minorities. But more importantly, whomever they recruit has experience working in groups of wide ranges of people. You know, the average age of one of our seniors is 25. You got a 20-year-old working with somebody who's 30 and been in the Navy as equals. Traditional universities don't have that kind of diversity.
Yeah.
Their students can't, I don't think, have the kind of experiences that prepare them as well for the real workforce that they're going to join when they graduate. And then I think the other piece is the progress we've made in hands-on education. Last year, we launched a marketing activities class did a project, developed a sales plan and sales pitch for a small company, entrepreneurial company that was owned and run by engineers. So, you know, they knew how to build product, but they didn't know how to sell it.
How to sell the product.
Right. And so we put some students on that, and the students competed. And so when the company judged the final presentations, they actually brought buyers from Advanced Auto Parts, their customer, who actually came in and judged it. And they were so impressed, they doubled the prize money. I mean, it was wonderful, because our students are highly talented, highly motivated, well prepared, but now those students have something that's real in their portfolio, and can document the effects of it. So I think that's an example of the kind of changes that we've been able to make in the last year and a half.
Are there any student-run companies or kind of companies that are out, you know, alums now that, I don't know, you're just paying attention to, that you've seen, that are just, you know, maybe
other than Hamilton Perkins?
Other than Hamilton Perkins Collection. Thank you. But no, anyone that you've seen, because, you know, I want to know too. I want to know who's out there kind of crushing it.
Well, I'm really keeping a close eye on Janae Brown's Full Belly Delights. To me, it's an interesting pivot, and I'm interested to see how she does with her bacon products, bacon-related products. And it's exciting to me that in the shadow of Smithfield Foods, the largest pork producer in the world, we have an entrepreneur doing something that's really out of the box, and so I'm excited to see how she's going to grow. So, you know, Blake Taylor gets a lot of press with his extreme printing, and what I particularly find interesting, I think he's pivoted a couple of times as well, and that, frankly, that's a big key to entrepreneurial success. It's figuring out, it's knowing when this isn't working and we need to do this, or maybe it's not so much that this isn't working, but that there's something else going on. I've done a lot of work with entrepreneurs in impoverished areas like in Malawi in Africa, and one of the things that has struck me is that the ones that are more likely to be successful, it's not access to capital, it's access to customers, and it's understanding customer needs and customer relationships. And then the second piece to their success is maintaining their degrees of freedom. And by that, I mean, if I buy a product for $1 and the market is $1.10, I don't have a lot of margin there that I can work with. I may not be able to advertise. I can't afford to cut the price. I need to turn it quickly. But if I can buy it for $80, now I've got more degrees of freedom. I've got more options. So that's a very simple way to look at it. But entrepreneurs who are able to keep their options open are much more agile and able to pivot. And I don't think that's an aspect of entrepreneurship that we understand as well as we should yet. So that's
pivot,
also
could the
something
pivot be one of the most kind of important things you've seen across entrepreneurs that help them kind of take off?
Facebook, a dating site, YouTube. It was started out as video capture because they were looking for video on Janet Jackson's wardrobe mishap, and and then they went, oh, wait a minute, there's a business opportunity here. I mean, there's all kinds of great pivots, and then there's those failed pivots. So you take the Xerox Corporation, whom I work for. That was a pivot. It started out as Haloid Supply. It was an office supply company. Chester Carlson took the idea, tried to sell it to 2 other companies. You might have heard of them, IBM and Kodak. They both turned him down. Where's Kodak? You know, so they missed it. They missed the opportunity. But this office supply company pivoted. I think pivots are they're just a natural function, natural experience of an entrepreneur's existence. And understanding when and how, I think, is a critical piece to an entrepreneur's success.
That's well said. I know a lot of folks look at it sometimes and they're just like, oh, you were starting one way, and it has that kind of stigma about it. But I think when you think of it in terms of, you know, whether it's YouTube or, you know, like Twitter, I think they might have started with like podcasting before the microblogging. I mean, you know, there's a lot of examples. Instagram, I think they had a slight pivot. But I guess, you know, I know everyone's been hanging out with us and would love to, you know, be able to reach out, maybe find out more about what's going on here at the college, find out more about your consulting. Where would you send everyone to keep up with you?
I'd love to have them just email me directly, jtanner@odu.edu. We have a number of programs to help small and emerging businesses, fast growth businesses, businesses that want to be fast growing. So, you know, give us a chance to help prove the value to those businesses.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. All right.